a time where the Lord leads us and he guides us and really holds us by the hand. It's kind of a training wheel experience. And then once we get to a certain competency level, he steps back and says, okay, the only way for you to go further, the only way for you to grow now is to use what I have taught you. It's to use what you have learned. It's to apply the skills that I've put inside of you and to let you do it on your own. And so during those seasons, he will step back and say, okay, show me what you've learned. Apply the things that I've taught you. Apply the things that I've put inside of you and use it for yourself. And let's see how you do, because that's how we're going to grow. And so we need to be able to do that. We can't get afraid. Sometimes we get discouraged and say, why did God leave me all alone? Why now in the worst time of my life, when I'm surrounded by my enemies, when I'm surrounded by all of this chaos in my life, it seems like God is nowhere to be found. I pray and I don't feel his presence. I seek him and I just don't know where he is. And I find myself questioning sometimes, is God even real or not? You know, when you're going through those dark seasons or those trying times, but what happens is God is helping you to grow. And the only way for you to grow from where you are is if he steps back and he lets you go and apply that faith and apply those skills and apply all that you've learned in his word and from experiences. And so the way to do it is to continue to walk in the presence of God and be led of God. And so we want to always do that. Now, sometimes, here's the thing. Sometimes success can be your worst enemy. I'm not saying all success is. Listen, I'm a big advocate for success and for winning and for doing good and continuing to walk with the Lord. That's what I wrote my first book about. It's about how to continue to walk with the Lord while having great success. That's what the Elder Son is all about. So I'm all for that. But what I'm saying is success can also be your worst enemy. If you start to buy into it, if you start to feel confidence in yourself, if you start to feel like, man, this life thing is not so hard after all. And then you forget what got you there. And you forget to pay attention to if you're walking in the presence of the Lord or not. And that's what happened to the children of Israel. They had their first victory. They defeated Jericho. And then they didn't bother to check where the Lord was before they went on to Ai. And what happened is they had walked away from God because God said, look, I'm not with you. I can't go with you now. But they weren't paying attention to God. And so they went and said, we're not even going to send everybody to this battle. It's so easy. We're so tough and strong and such skilled warriors. Look what we did to Jericho. Yeah, but Jericho didn't even fight back. The presence of the Lord went before them, and they were dreaded in their hearts, and they practically died, from fear. They were frozen in fear. It wasn't even a fight. It was the presence of God who gave them that victory. So now they thought, this is going to be so easy, and they did not bother to check on God. And what happened was somebody out of the innocency of his heart, not really a bad thing, but had taken some spoils from Jericho, and they weren't supposed to do that. It was all supposed to be destroyed. But he said, you know what? We're fixing to go and start a new life here in the promised land, and this can do my family some good. I'm going to just take some of these valuables. And he went and dug a hole in his tent and buried those things and kept them there. And because of that, because it was breaking the commandment of the Lord, what he had told them to do, God could not go with them and help them. But they didn't bother to check and find out on that. They just said, let's go ahead. And then they were beaten badly. And then they decided to pray and say, let's go see what's going on and check, Lord, why did you abandon us? They said, somebody took of the accursed thing. Somebody broke the rules. And you didn't bother to see if I was still with you or not. You just wanted to go ahead on your own. Listen, we never want to go ahead on our own. And so here's the thing. There was no more cloud to look at, and there was no more pillar of fire. That led them to the promised land, but when they got there, the manna stopped. The cloud went away. The pillar of fire was gone. And so, but they should have known. See, this is where the training wheels comes off. That was part of the training wheels. God had them 40 years on training wheels, but now they should have known what it felt like to be led by God. They had been led by God for 40 years. And listen, we need to know what it feels like when God is leading us into a new thing. Even though we can't see a cloud and we don't see a pillar of fire, we need to remember what that feeling was like when God took us to victory and victory and victory. What it was like when he led us there. What his presence felt like. That's what we need to know. And so, listen, when Israel went through the Red Sea, it was God who parted the waters, and they went through in dry land. But when he got them to Jordan, he said, okay, I want to see you get your feet wet now, and then we'll part the waters. And so you see, there's a progression there. He expects us to grow and to learn and to take steps of faith in a bigger way. Now, here's the thing, one more thing, and then we're going to pray. You learn from your successes, but you learn even better from your failures. And so when you look back, don't just look and remember what it felt like for God to lead you into successes. That's great. That's fun. That's entertaining. I love looking back on my victories. But what the world would tell us sometimes, what people advise us, is try to forget the past and block out the past and don't think about those negative things. But listen, you need those negative experiences. You need the lesson that you learn. Success is a poor teacher. When you keep getting things right, you don't remember, you don't pay attention to the details. But when you fail, that stings, and you say, I never want to experience this again. And so we learn so much more from our failures. So look back at the times when you didn't get it right, because what's happening now is these training wheels come off, is the Lord is giving you a do-over. And so as you're experiencing, as you're going through these do-overs, say, okay, I'm not going to make the mistakes that I made in the past. I'm going to get it right this time. And so, and then we could go forward. That's how the Lord helps us to grow. And so we want to know what it feels like to be in the presence. Before we take a step forward, before we go on to the next thing, we need to humble ourselves again and say, okay, my victories and my success doesn't come from anything I did. It doesn't come from myself. It's not of my own greatness and because I'm such a scholar in the word of the Lord and such a noble Christian who goes to church every Sunday and life group and all these. No. It's not anything that I've done on my own, but it's only by the presence of God. The reason I do all these other things is because of how true he is and of how great he has been in my life. And so when